Mikela Panday's late entrance and misguided critique reeks of political sour grapes. An editorial by Professor Wall Street. The recent Facebook post by Mikela Panday, leader of the Patriotic Front Party, exemplifies everything wrong with opportunistic politics in Trinidad and Tobago. Her sudden emergence from a 2-month political hibernation to attack the newly elected government reeks more of wounded pride than genuine concern for the nation's welfare. Panday's critique of the government's economic policies, while containing some valid points about fiscal responsibility, loses all credibility when viewed through the lens of her party's electoral performance and her own political conduct. Her accusation of race baiting against the current administration is particularly rich, given the context and timing of her intervention. Here are 10 reasons why Mikela Panday is out of place to discuss race baiting. 1. Contradicted by first appointment. Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessa's very first appointment was John Jeremy, a black man, as Attorney General. This action speaks louder than any political rhetoric and directly contradicts Panday's insinuation of racial bias in government appointments. 2. Electoral rejection speaks volumes. The people of Trinidad and Tobago decisively rejected the Patriotic Front at the polls on April 28. When voters overwhelmingly choose other options, it suggests a fundamental disconnect between the party's message and the electorate's priorities. 3. Convenient political resurrection. Panday's 2-month absence from public discourse following her electoral defeat raises questions about her commitment to opposition politics. True leaders don't disappear when their parties lose. They remain engaged in the democratic process. 4. Questionable timing. Attacking a government barely 2 months into its term before major policies have had time to take effect suggests predetermined opposition rather than evidence-based criticism. 5. Legacy of division. As the daughter of former Prime Minister Basdeo Panday, Mikela carries the historical baggage of her family's own complex relationship with race-based politics in Trinidad and Tobago, making her an imperfect messenger for unity. 6. Selective outrage. Her focus on alleged race baiting while ignoring substantive policy discussions suggests a preference for inflammatory rhetoric over constructive opposition. 7. Platform limitations. Using Facebook as the primary vehicle for such serious accusations lacks the gravitas expected from a political leader and suggests an attempt to bypass traditional media scrutiny. 8. Failed leadership test. The Patriotic Front's inability to gain traction with voters under her leadership raises questions about her political judgment and ability to read the national mood. 9. Credibility. Gap. Her absence during crucial post-election periods when opposition voices were needed most undermines her credibility as a serious political commentator. 10. Contradictory messaging. Claiming to want the government to succeed while simultaneously launching partisan attacks suggests a fundamental insincerity in her stated objectives. The real issue: sour grapes versus constructive opposition. Panday's post reads like a textbook case of sour grapes, the frustrated reaction of a political leader whose message was soundly rejected by voters. While her concerns about fiscal responsibility and economic diversification are legitimate policy debates, they are overshadowed by the transparent opportunism of her approach. The timing of her critique is particularly telling. After remaining silent for almost 2 months while the new government took office and began implementing its agenda, she suddenly finds her voice to attack. This pattern suggests less about genuine policy concerns and more about political positioning for future relevance. Her accusation of race baiting is especially problematic, given the clear evidence to the contrary. The appointment of John Jeremy as Attorney General, the government's first major appointment, directly refutes her claims about racial bias. This appointment demonstrates the government's commitment to merit-based selection across racial lines. What Trinidad and Tobago deserves. Trinidad and Tobago deserves better than this brand of opportunistic opposition politics. The nation faces genuine challenges: economic diversification, debt management, crime, and social cohesion that require serious, sustained political engagement from all quarters. Effective opposition doesn't disappear for 2 months after electoral defeat, only to emerge with inflammatory accusations. It involves consistent, principled engagement with policy issues, offering alternative solutions rather than mere criticism. The voters of Trinidad and Tobago spoke clearly on April 28. They chose continuity and experience over the untested promises of fringe parties. Panday's Patriotic Front failed to gain traction, not because of some systemic bias, but because voters found their message unconvincing. In conclusion, actions speak louder than words. Prime Minister Persad Bissessa's appointment of John Jeremy as Attorney General stands as a concrete action that contradicts Panday's race-baiting accusations. While political debate is essential in any democracy, it must be grounded in facts rather than partisan speculation. Mikela Panday's sudden reemergence with divisive rhetoric does little to advance the national conversation. Instead, it highlights the difference between serious political leadership and mere political theater. Trinidad and Tobago's challenges are too significant for such opportunistic intervention. The nation would be better served by opposition voices that engage consistently, constructively, and honestly with the issues at hand, not by political leaders who vanish after defeat only to return with unfounded accusations when it suits their purposes.